time, please slow down when you're driving.
That's not
Use due care. Use due care when you go through lights. And please make sure the next time.
You can't tell us
I'm just telling you.
You're
Please,
hindering and delaying me for
please make
unnecessary
sure you have the certificate of.
Welcome back to the channel. This is a Life Plus reaction video. We have here the Tulare County Copwatch YouTube channel. They have a great subscriber count, and thank you so much for posting the video. This is a unbiased, no-sided reaction to an officer who pulled over a other law enforcement person, I'm gonna say. Wait till the end of the video to find out who he was. We'll just say cop versus cop for right now, as so the officer thought. And the guy is claiming that the officer conducted, his business very poorly, that he targeted him, that he did not do what the officer said he did, essentially just kind of bash the officer. So what we're going to do is react to that video, and I'm going to give you my opinion in the end. Tune in. It's a pretty interesting video. Hope you enjoy. So the light's red, as you can see here. Officer's light's going to turn green, obviously. Let's see here. 1. Did you see? 2. There you go. See how, now did you see how long that light was red? Let's go do that again. All right. Officer's light's going to turn green. Ready? Green. Car. So the light was completely red when that car went through it. It was not yellow.
How's it going? Are you alone? Do you have any weapons in the car? Can you keep your hand on the steering wheel for me, please? I'm just going to put the mask on. Okay. You mind opening up that front window, passenger? So obviously, you could see here that the vehicle is completely tinted, like limo tint. So you're not going to see in that vehicle at all. Now, I don't know the law on tinting in that state. It could be legal, no problem. But remember, you cannot see what's inside that car. So, officer has to roll down the back window. That's pretty much standard procedure in defensive tactics. And the gentleman in the vehicle is immediately a little combative, jumping straight to, "Can you put your mask on, please?" Granted, if he's afraid of the situation because the officer's not wearing a mask, then by all means, whatever. But if not, I think you're doing that just to kind of inflate the anger of the officer or escalate the situation. Yeah, that one. Okay. Mind keeping your hands on the steering wheel? And you said there's no weapons or anything in the car, right? He could have opened both windows, too. Sir? You said, I'm asking you a question. You said there's no weapons or anything in the vehicle? Okay. Yes? No weapons. Why you pulled me over? Sir, I will explain. Okay. The first thing you should never do when getting pulled over, especially if you know you went through a red light, don't ask why you're being pulled over in a defensive way like that. It's already, you have to understand that these officers follow a procedure. It's a formula. It starts with officer safety first, then it's introduction, then it's, okay, they do ask you the question of what you've done. If you don't know, that's fine. But don't start immediately saying, "Why'd you pull me over? Why'd you pull me over?" You're already causing an issue from that point. You know that it's not going to end well at that point. Let's just keep watching. That's you in a second. I see a duty belt. Is there a weapon within a duty belt? Okay, so the officer is well within his right to ask, is there a weapon in the car? Now, mind you, the guy said no originally, but he has a duty belt, which could hold a weapon, correct? No. Okay, all right. So, being a parent to know, the reason I'm stopping you is just ran that red light back at Summerlin Park. Listen to me. I'm not going to argue. Okay. I have it on body camera. Okay. You ran that red light back at... I did not, sir. Okay. Okay, can I see? Okay, I need to see your driver's license, proof of insurance, and registration. Which department do you work for? Which department do you work for, sir? Sir, I did not.
run a red light.
Listen,
Okay?
listen.
And what you proceed with caution, and that's what I did. I did not run your red
sped
light,
up.
sir.
My light was green, and yours
Sir, I
was
did
red.
not.
Okay, it's as simple.
I just want to tell you something. As you could see, the driver in this vehicle is clearly, he was wearing some sort of badge and identification. He did have an American flag on his right side. He's clearly wearing a uniform shirt. He has a duty belt. He also has a couple other credentials indicating that this gentleman is in law enforcement of some sorts.
Is this, sir? Very simple. You work for a law enforcement agency.
I do, and I know the law.
Very simple. You have officer contact. All you have to do is humble yourself, and I would have gave you the one. No, you're being argumentative.
I did not, because
Okay.
you're asking me about weapons and
Sir, that is, if you know anything about law enforcement, I come up to your vehicle, you're wearing a shirt, and I see a gun belt. I want to know if there's any weapons in this vehicle. Simple question. Can I see your insurance, please?
Officer's making it like very good points here. Now, I want to give you a little backstory. This video claims that the guy was pulled over for the wrong reason. The cop was targeting this guy. Now, this is on a CopWatch channel. Not sure if this channel is for or against the police. I'm simply watching this from an unbiased standpoint. I am not on anybody's side. I'm evaluating this from the outside. But so far, from the preliminary beginnings of this video, I can see that there's a whole other story going on here than what was originally talked about. Clearly, we saw, because we replayed it, that the gentleman in this vehicle had gone through the red light. It was not yellow, it was red. And it was red for a pretty long time. We could slow motion it just to see. Then the officer approaches the vehicle, conducts a traffic stop. Very polite, in my opinion. I don't see anything wrong with this officer at this point. Knocks on the back window, officer safety, the windows are limo tinted. He opens the back window, does not open the front window. Now, if I was the guy in the car, I would open all the windows just to kind of like, I know you don't have to, but let's just clear up officer safety from day one. Look at that guy can be a person with a gun. He could have that gun aimed at the officer. The officer would have no idea. The guy could start shooting. The officer would be dead, maybe leaving a bunch of kids and a wife and family or who knows what behind. You don't know. Maybe his mother. Come on. So let's just start out with that, how this is going from now. And you could let me know in the comments what you think. Okay, so he's looking for his information. Just pay attention to what the guy's wearing, okay? He's also got a hat on that has clearly a badge on it.
Is your address still at the... Sir?
Sir, that's the address.
Is your address correct?
That's my address.
Okay. Thank you.
You are very...
I'm very what? I'm asking you if this is your address, and I need to ask you that
The
question.
address is already in the license.
Okay, so is it unreasonable for people to change their address and not notify DMV?
It's an unnecessary question.
Okay. Which agency do you work for?
That's none of your business.
Oh, none of my business.
Yes.
Okay.
You're just wasting my time.
I'm sorry you feel that way, sir, but I need to know which agency you work for.
None of your business what I work for.
Okay, so the officer's asking what agency he works for because he's clearly displaying a bunch of information and clearly indicating that he is a law enforcement officer. Now, the officer's asking these questions so that way he can, rule out impersonation, because that does happen all the time. Search it on YouTube. It's important that we do weed them out because they are dangerous people when there is somebody pulling over people who's, impersonating. Not saying that that's what's happening here, but it's just valid questioning, especially because the guy is operating in something called duties to act. So in the event that you are walking around, I'm going to use an example of an emergency medical technician. If you are walking around, let's say after work, you're still clearly in your medical, gear, you're in your uniform, you're walking down the street, displaying your presence as an EMT, and a patient or somebody goes down right in front of you into a cardiac arrest or something. If you choose to walk away or not do anything about that patient in that moment, you can be charged, actually, criminally, because you are operating in something called a duty to act law. There is a law that states that you have a duty to act as a medical professional if you are displaying the credentials thereof. So, in this case, the officer is well within his right to ask which jurisdiction or which department he works in because of the fact that he's displaying all this information and because he's had the duty belt and things of that nature. Now, The guy could choose not to answer. That's fine, but the officer's well within his right to figure it out.
All right. I have to tell you again, you're littering.
I'm not littering. I'm putting
You
it
don't
out.
out and ask cigarette in the middle of the street.
That's littering?
Okay. 787, can you roll me a backup unit?
Yeah, you need backup. I don't know what more, but you need backup. Unnecessary.
All right, yeah, the officer's being a little bit petty there about the cigarette. No, absolutely. But you know what? It does actually annoy me to see people throw cigarettes outside. Yes, they're small, but they're still gross, and they litter our streets like crazy. Like, how many times do you hate looking at a beautiful park and you see all these cigarette butts everywhere? I'm just saying, you know, don't throw them outside.
I did not litter. I put the cigarette out.
You cannot out a lit cigarette out
I
into
did
the
not throw
street.
it away, sir.
Doesn't matter.
What's your last name?
My name is Sergeant Dillon,
Sergeant.
and this is being recorded on body-worn
I
camera.
don't know why you... Sergeant.
Yes, sir. I can tell that something's going on with you today. If you want to just, you know, at this point, humble yourself and tell me who you work for, and then we could have a different conversation, then we could do that.
You said I ran a red light. I did
Sir,
not run a red light.
it's on body-worn camera. I saved it. You crossed the light.
That's what you believe I did. I
It's
did
not. You crossed the light.
turning...
The light, you were in my intersection when the light was green, sir. We're not going to argue about this. Can I have the proof of insurance?
The video doesn't lie. I agree. He was absolutely in the intersection when the light was green.
Let me call my wife.
No, don't call anybody.
Why do people do that? Why when people get pulled over, they turn around and say, I gotta call this person, I gotta call that person? That's like the last thing you could do. The only thing I could say that you could get away with that is if you're legitimately calling a lawyer and there's a, you know, the situation is escalating to serious criminal charges. Yeah, you could throw your lawyer on speakerphone. I think that that's perfectly fine. But, you know, not your wife.
That proof on your phone. Do you have a copy of it?
Neutral, sir.
Okay, do you have a copy? Do you have a copy of it on your phone? And I will also need the registration, please.
Normal, simple stuff here, right?
I'm in nowhere of your area where you're wearing a mask and none of
Okay,
my...
he's starting with the whole mask thing again.
People know if they were infected or not.
Is that how it works, sir? No, you need a 14-day period to see if you're infected or not.
So he's essentially just kind of
Well, that's what
berating
I'm
the
saying.
officer while still looking for the insurance about the mask.
How much more time do you need to find your documents?
I'm looking for it, sir. I don't get pulled over often.
Okay. You should always have your documents prepared and ready to go.
So we're like 10 minutes of him still looking for insurance, proof of registration, all that stuff.
Explain to them law enforcement things, and like you're supposed to give your first.
Return valid Class C X26. I'll run the plate now.
What do you have the car, you know?
I think it's 07.
What were you say?
He's just giving me more attitude. Because I asked him for a P number, I don't know P number, whatever. He doesn't want to give me supervisor info.
He has nothing in scope but reference to law enforcement. So.
He said he made him late, he was late for work.
Well, stop speeding. That's fine. You know how to humble yourself, and then this wouldn't be an issue.
I weirdly agree.
Like I said, I explained to him law enforcement things, and like you're supposed to give your personnel number or whatever. So,
And I agree, some cops are crazy, dude. Like, I get it. Like, but in this case, like, from an outside perspective, like, the video doesn't lie, and whatever the video is claiming, it's not according to what really happened. It's not accurate. I agree with the officer.
Plate return active for an '07 Chevy, expiration of 10/2/20.
Okay, sir. Nevada Corrections, okay? Here's your driver's license back.
All right. So we know what branch of law enforcement this gentleman works in. He's a corrections officer. So the thing is this is a classic case of pride. Officer approaches a vehicle, guy's in uniform, he's feeling all tough and hot and everything. He clearly goes through the red light, he knows that he did it, has completely blacked out windows. Officer conducts a very respectful traffic stop, approaches from the rear, knocks on the window, guy opens up one single window, doesn't open up all of them. Officer asks him to roll down the second window, finally, he does so. Immediately combative, argumentative, starts to talk about officer not wearing a mask, things like that, and says, why'd you pull me over, why'd you pull me over, why'd you pull me over? Nothing is going to go well from the start right at that moment. You already know that. The guy was very disrespectful and argumentative, would not allow the officer to know who he worked for, why he had a duty belt, why he was clearly displaying a uniform, a badge, a hat, a duty belt. Did he have a weapon? These are all valid questions. Also operating in due regard or also operating in the duty to act laws here. So you do understand the officer was completely in his right. And I really believe that the officer treated him with respect and also held his composure way better than I would have. I'm not saying I would freak out at the guy, but I definitely probably would not be as patient because it's just ridiculous. I mean, the officer did issue him a citation that was a pretty substantial one. I don't agree with that so much. I mean, you know, in this day and age, nobody has a lot of money, and hopefully the guy can fight that in court and get it reduced. But other than that, he definitely deserved a citation. He definitely did what he did. And what this video is claiming that the officer, you know, kind of like did something wrong here, I disagree. He didn't do anything wrong. So, classic case of pride. Officer asks who you work for, you have a gun, a badge, and everything else. You're really supposed to tell him. It just kind of clears the water on that. But yeah.
Sir? You've issued 2 citations today, one for disobey a steady red signal, and the other one for certificate of registration, failed to surrender.
For what?
Failed to surrender certificate of registration, okay? Your court's information is in that checkbox right there. You have until the June 29th, 2020. That is not a court date. You have to take care of the ticket or citation on that date. If you don't, this goes to a warrant. All the information will be on the pink copy that I'm going to give you, and it'll explain everything on the citation.
Do you have a business card, sir?
I do not. And like I told you before, this whole documentation and this whole contact is going to be documented on body-worn camera, okay? And my badge number is 9671. And just so we're clear on record, you work for Nevada Corrections. You are failing. You are failing to. Okay, I'm asking you a question.
It has no business for what I'm doing.
Okay.
Still Carter.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna argue with you.
That's what I don't like about your.
That's fine, sir.
And your whole manner.
That's fine.
I don't think the officer had any attitude.
Give me my ticket. I need to go.
You need to settle
Sir,
down.
give me a ticket. I need to go.
You can keep your pen out. I'm going to instruct you that you need to sign in 2 places. One right here on the first red X. You're going to flip down the top copy and sign again right on the second red X. Okay? Here you go, sir. Red X, red X, red X. The red X.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Red X again.
Why do you need
Because you got 2 citations, so you signed up for 2 citations. I explained them to you. Thank you. I'm going to cut you a break on extinguishing your cigarette out the vehicle when lit. That was all on body camera, so I'm going to cut you a break on that one.
Add it. I don't need to hear anything else.
Just a word of advice, next time you have law enforcement contact.
We will deal with it in court.
Okay.
We will
Next time you have law enforcement contact, sir, please humble yourself and properly identify yourself as a law enforcement
You
officer.
are wrong. And
Next time, please slow down when you're driving.
That's not
Use
business.
due
You gave me
care.
a citation.
Use due care when you
gave
go
me a
through life.
citation, sir. I need to go,
And
please.
please make sure the
You are
next
just
time.
being more
You can't tell us
unprofessional
what to
right
do.
now.
I'm just telling you.
You're
Please,
hindering and delaying me for
please make
unnecessary.
sure you have the certificate of registration
you
and
are
current vehicle
unprofessional right now.
insurance policy
You
in the
are
vehicle.
unprofessional.
Here you go, sir. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. You have a nice day. Where am I?
Thank you for the advice, sir. Have a nice day. Fine, as long as he doesn't reverse. Let's take some cover just in case this guy has a 413 in that vehicle. So I'm going to do a nice lengthy document on here and then an officer's report and try to get a hold of him, whoever he works for.
Okay, so obviously the end of this video speaks for itself, claiming the officer was unprofessional. I don't think, in my opinion, that officer was unprofessional at all. I think all of them were professional. I'm not sure what was said, by the other officers, obviously, but from what we gather here, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. The gentleman in the vehicle is clearly on a pride trip. I've seen this a lot of times, and you know what? God bless the corrections officers. They do deal with a lot of stuff. But a lot of times you get these hot-headed guys who, for whatever reason, couldn't become police officers, things like that, or, just aren't, they got chips on their shoulders. They become corrections officers in order to control and manipulate others because their own lives are out of control. It's classic psychology, clearly displayed in this guy. I'm not saying, I'm not a psychologist or anything, so I can't definitively say that. It just looks like it. Guy in the car's got something to prove. But he went through the red light. He was unprofessional from the moment that the officer approached the vehicle. Officer conducted himself very well. Thank you very much, for being so good at your composure and everything, officer, But we have to really kind of hold these people accountable because the guy was out of control. Not saying that anything is illegal there. I mean, everyone has a right to speak their freedom. You could be disrespectful to an officer, but just know that you're going to get it right back. And, the officer didn't react. I mean, some officers would turn around and, go crazy, and drag you out of the vehicle and arrest you just because of the words you say. And that's a big problem, too, and I'm very against it. But this officer handled it great. The guy spoke his mind, freedom of speech, exercised his First Amendment right, and the officer exercised his rights in following the law, issuing appropriate citations, giving him a warning on the littering of the cigarette, and also documented the information very well and, allowed the guy to know that he was being audio and video recorded, which covers the wiretapping laws there, but he doesn't need that anyway because they're on a public road. And yeah, it's an excellent video. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this reaction. We'll see you on the next one. If you like this, leave a comment and a like or a dislike and a negative comment too, so I know that I'm getting all the attention on every side while we're, giving some opinions on this stuff. Thanks again. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.